Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Foresight TV. I'd like to wish you all a good Friday, happy Easter weekend before we get started here. But I got somebody who I've known for many, many years. Aaron is somebody who is one of my most favorite, fun, thoughtful leadership people in the entire senior living industry. We're going to sort of go deep into how do we live better lives as leaders in the industry? This will be a bit different than anything we've ever done. So, Aaron, I'm really excited about this, and we're going to get right into it after this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Aaron, this has been a long time coming. I want to actually start by just having you talk about who you are, who 12 Oaks is, what your passion is about changing the world.
Let's do it. Well, those are three big things right there. Who I am and my role are two different things, and we're going to explore that a little further as we get into the podcast. But who I am is a person of restoration, aiding, other focused. I love seeing people's development. I love my own development as well as stewardship of that. And who 12 Oaks is very similar to that. And while it may not be personal development, they take that same passion with residents thriving in community, as well as ownership groups we serve and employees we serve and vendors we serve and our trusted partners with. And we aid and help in any manner that we can at least have access to.
Terrific. So we're gonna take a very different tact here, and I'm gonna start with sort of a very personal confession. I go to probably more conferences than just about anybody I know. I run 15 to 18 a year. And I know many, many hundreds of people at Nick. I probably know 300 or 400, maybe as many as 1,000 people there. A lot more people know me. I had so many, I used to carry one of these counters where can't keep track of how many conversations I have. I don't even do that anymore because I'm focused more on having deeper conversations. But two things that are my truth, I don't know if they're anybody else's truth, are that when I come back, I feel exhausted. And the second thing is I feel like I've never done it good enough, that somehow I was a failure. And so we're going to talk about sort of self-image and self-worth. Talk to me a little bit about why do I feel that way and how do I make it better?
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good question. Yeah, first, let me start off by saying I know many people can relate to you, identify with you, even personally, that you're not alone about being exhausted, about being overwhelmed, about trying to compensate with that, about how to protect yourself in that. You're not alone. Hundreds of people today and this weekend are still recovering from the residual effects, and you are not alone in it. So I want to throw that out there just to start out. Is that fair?
It is fair. And I actually believe that to be true. And the other part of it I would say to this that's really interesting is, and I'll go a little deeper on this in a bit. I'm going to reveal some stuff I'm going to write about, but that's okay. Is that every time that I ever talk to anybody at the conference or they talk to me, they say, the first thing is, "Hey, Aaron, how are you doing?" And what's your response?
Yeah, well, naturally, we're programmed to respond, "I'm fine, I'm great," and take it off of us. How are you? Because that's a form of a self-protection. Instead of talking about me, let's turn it to you because that's more comfortable. And I want to hide from this comfort that I have about talking about me.
Okay, well, and honestly, if we're honest about it, you actually did that to me before we went on air. You said, "Well, I don't want to talk about me." And maybe that's not really that good a thing. And I'm going to give you an example of that. My team knows this. I've been very public. I'm actually write about this. But since Leading Age last year, I'm going through a series of very frustrating health challenges. I have a few weeks where I feel good, and then I get sick, and I go to the doctor, and they fix it, and then I feel better for a little while, and then I come back. And I'm really struggling with it. It's not cancer. We don't really know exactly what it is. Probably dealing with some anemia. And so I had a couple of people who I know fairly well who said, "How are you doing?" And I started by saying, "Oh, I'm doing great." And I said, "Well, actually, I'm not really doing great." And it was actually very helpful to me. And they gave me, not only did they give me sympathy, but they gave me some concrete suggestions to deal with it. So how do we get better at sort of dealing with this inner conflict that we all have that we mostly hide?
That's really good. And hey, man, I wish you weren't going through that. It can be overwhelming. And frankly, it can be scary too with health because you feel powerless. You don't know what's going on or what's not going on that should. So I do want to acknowledge that. Now I'll jump in to, and a lot of this, a lot of what we talked about, you started out with my words. I don't want to put words in your mouth of sometimes I feel I'm not enough. I'm not enough, not enough, not enough. Because sometimes we have a view that's based in scarcity, and scarcity in 2 words is not enough. And that's the world we live in senior housing, Steve, because we have a scarcity mentality of not enough absorption, not enough leads, not enough inquiries, not enough tours, not enough move-ins, not enough, not enough, not enough. You know, that's a mentality we have in. And when we invest our self-view, and I'm going to talk into this a little bit, when we invest the view of ourself, if it's not aligned with reality, if we don't view ourselves rightly, it can be based in not enough. And there's a rule in this world, like a law of sowing and reaping. You're going to get a yield. You're going to get a return on what you invest in. And when we wholeheartedly believe and invest in not enough, it yields not enough. And it's no surprise in that because we have a view, and where we're receiving this view of ourselves, this is really important because the majority of us in this world buy into this lie that we're not enough because we're receiving a view from 3 places of what we do, what we have, or what people say about us. And it can be extraordinarily dangerous if we buy into that, because those things can go away in a heartbeat and they can be gone. And so can our self-view and identity go with it. And that's a very dangerous place to be. I'm going to check in real quick. Are you tracking with me, or is the audience tracking? Is that making sense before I just go on further with it?
Yeah, absolutely. This really resonates with me a lot. I love this. If I look like I'm distracted, it's because I'm making notes on it because I love this so much. So I love this. What our self-identity by what we do, what we have, and that's a big one for me, honestly. At Nick, it's a little because I spend a lot of time with a lot of very wealthy people who have a lot of stuff, and that's not me. Yeah. And then what people say about you, that believe it or not, that's actually the one that I probably do the best at, because as a writer, I put myself out there, and not everybody likes me or what I write.
Yeah. Yeah. I will validate that. I am a fan, and I know lots of people are fans too. And it's like through whatever experiences you've had in life, you've been able to integrate a skill of integration is an internal character structure of looking at the world as not all good or not all bad, but good and bad. And just in your language as a writer, hey, there's lots of people that like me, and there's also people that don't. And I can carry that discomfort inside of me, knowing that I can be connected with those that do like me. Now, I can go on down that path, or I think it'd be really impressive and would resonate with you and perhaps some other people listening, getting back to self-view and identity. Would you mind if we explored that a little further from not enough?
Yep, I would love that.
Let's look at that, because how we see things in life, how we see things determines what we do. And what we do determines what we get, the result. And so taking that concept, how we see ourselves, our self-view, do we view ourselves correctly? Is it right? Is our identity, how we view ourselves? It is so important. It's literally a core way in which we operate because it's a core organizing principle of how we organize our life in any living system. This is from a cell to an individual, to a team, to an organization, to an industry. Now, if that view, that self-view is authentic or true, it operates in a world of connectedness. It's connected with others. For the academic folks, it's an open system, meaning an open system that I can receive. And I receive nutrients like acceptance, belonging, affirmations, validations, and then more traditional nutrients like guidance, redirection, perspective, feedback. I can receive these because it's an open system when you're viewing yourself correctly. And because this is important, now that I have those things inside of me, I have them to give. There's a rule in the world: you cannot give what you do not have. And so I now have these nutrients that I've received as an open system. And now what I can do is reciprocate. And to my team that I lead, or to the team that you lead, you can now give those same things you once received: acceptance, belonging, validation, to traditional perspective, guidance, redirection, because you now have them to give. Now, this is really interesting. Now, when a healthy system becomes corrupted, like when a cell becomes cancerous, it's not an open system. It doesn't receive, it becomes a closed system. A closed system, and no longer does it receive. Instead, it feeds off the system around it. It takes from the system. It takes other people's time, their energy, their money. It steals for self-gain. It sacrifices their time, energy, and money on the altar of self-gain and self-promotion. And that's why it's so dangerous and it's so exhausting. I'm going to check in again because you're behind the scenes. Are you taking notes? Is that tracking? I don't know how that's
It
I want to check in with you.
It is. So I do have a question for you, Aaron. Can you give us some concrete examples of these?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. And so I always want to be sure that people know as where, if they want to go further. This is from a professor at Harvard, an adjunct professor, Winship. And so I want to be sure that I'm taking this material, that people know that, and applying to senior housing. Concrete examples. All right, we long have known a divide between the property's operations team and sales team. Ops and sales, ops and sales. All right. When sales is an open system, they receive from the operations team. What do they receive? Well, they receive make-ready apartments that are done. That's what they receive. They receive the income for advertising. Now, the reciprocal, the sales staff is reciprocal for the ops team. And for the ops team, what does it receive? It receives revenue that's produced by the sales team. It receives tours, it receives direction, it receives request. And so the two together, when they're a broken system, there's a divide, and they try to steal from each other or use each other's energy. When they're connected and operate from a place of connectedness, if the academics want to use the word of attachment, if you have this attachment that's healthy together, you're fueling each other through being an open system and reciprocating versus taking from each other. So there's a concrete example that we see all the time across hundreds and hundreds of communities.
So I love this a lot. So that's sort of the ideal. What happens when it's broken, and how do we fix it?
Yeah. What happens is one key thing. People begin to operate out of a type of fear. And when I say fear, I want to be sure there's different levels. We have low level of fear, just like a slight apprehension, maybe a little feeling, to something is threatening me and my life is in danger. So we have different levels of fear, different level of emotions. And this fear, what fear is a signal. All emotions are signals. They're information, they're data. And fear is a signal. And how the brain responds is automatically when someone is closed to someone and they're defensive, they're operating out of fear, and they do two things. They self-promote and they self-protect. Self-promote and self-protect. That's where they move into. So back to the example at conferences, when we were talking off camera about you're asking people, how are you doing? There's a low level, a type of fear. I have to self-promote. I have to self-protect. I can't let Steve know that the 2 business meetings I had, that people are depending on me to bring business to the company, I failed at. I have to self-protect. So how do we do it? We lie. Oh, it's fine. It's great. Things are moving along. And we self-promote. And we self-promote, like you're saying, through everything's fine, everything's good. And here's the thing, it's exhausting. We say it in different ways of I'm so tired, or it's so busy, or oh my gosh, it's nonstop, but it drains you and it's exhausting. Again, a check-in for the 3rd time. How are we doing?
So I like this a lot, and I think the one other thing that we maybe would do, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about, is there are multiple kinds of exhaustion, right? I used to ski patrol, and it can be hard physical work for a guy who doesn't normally do hard physical work. And it's been a few years since I've done it, but I would oftentimes come off the mountain physically, and you're doing rescues of people who've been hurt, and you're loading them in toboggans, and you're taking them down, you're trying to figure out how to take care of them. And I've had times where I'd come away exhausted and said, man, that was the best day ever. So I think we've got to acknowledge there's more than one kind of exhaustion, right?
It is. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're bringing up, because in that manner, and I don't know all the details, but that's pretty impressive you did that. That's awesome, Steve. I had no idea. So that's really neat. So I want to affirm that. That's super cool. With that, your self-view is you were a healthy rescuer. You guided people out of mistakes they had gotten themselves in. No fault of their own or fault of their own. You were other focused. Your self-view was to aid others, and you were just drained and you needed to be refilled. What I'm talking about is exhaustion that's based in what Winship would call a false self. And we call it different names like shadow or imposter, and there's different names for it. But I'm talking about the exhaustion that can never rest because they're trying to meet their identity through production and what they do. And it's exhausting, and they're always in the measurement system, and they're always in measurement mode, always comparing themselves to team members. And at the conference we were just at, always comparing to how many properties we have. Are they more? Or what's my title compared to theirs? Or what status and what event did I go to? Am I invited to this? And it's exhausting if you're in that trap, because you're always trying to self-promote and self-protect yourself from an identity that's not based and received in a healthy way.
Okay, so how do I fix it?
Yeah, so let's use yours. So you were operating out of a place of overflow. While it gave you purpose and energy to rescue and aid, just the physical toll had a wear on you, but you were also able to recoup, and you looked forward, and it gave you energy. So how do we fix this? Let's talk about that. The first step is understanding the view in which you operate. Are you in a worldview of a connected worldview, where I'm with coaches and comrades and casual friends that I gain energy with? Or am I in a separated worldview where I'm trying to elevate myself at all cost? Which view am I operating in? And this is so important. All transformation begins with telling the truth. You've got to tell the truth. Here's an example. If a husband has a gambling addiction, and he says, honey, listen, I'm an investor. Now, I have a remote office in Vegas, but I'm an investor. What happens? Well, trust erodes, the marriage erodes, finances are strained. And until that person tells the truth and confesses the truth, and all I mean by confession is tell the truth. That's all I mean by it. Until the gambling husband tells the truth and says, hey, I have an addiction, then what happens? The truth is told, and marriage is restored, trust is restored, finances are restored. Why? Because he's now operating within the confines of truth. Things only advance in the confines of truth. So tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. about how you view the worldview you have, connected or separated, and how you view you. Like, tell the truth. So that's step number one, is tell the truth. Again, fourth check-in. Is that making sense so far?
It is. And I'm thinking particularly that it's actually much more difficult than it sounds, I think, because I'm not sure we even always know our own truth. I mean, we do it deep if we can get deep enough, right?
Yes. Yeah, we do. So, yeah, confusion. Here's important. Let's go into step two.
Okay.
Let's go into step two. This is going to be important. Let me wrap up one and then go into two. We understand the way we view ourselves is utmost importance. A guy in high school who views himself as a cowboy does what? He wears jeans, drives a jacked up pickup, 4-wheel drive, 35 or 37-inch tires with mutters because it's bragging rights. And of course, you have to have the skull thing in your back pocket because that's pretty cool. Now, if someone views themselves in high school as an emo girl, an emotional girl, emo kid, like makeup, lipstick, how do they spend their time? They spend it with the way they dress, the way they curate to express an emotion of how you feel, at least for that week. And so their worlds are different because they're viewing themselves different. Now, if they want to change, here's where the question comes in. It has to be in the context of relationship, in a place of safety in relationship where identity or self-view can come in a healthy manner, not from what I do, what I have, or what I say, or what people think about me, but what is my gift to the world? What is my gift? What am I drawn to? What has my life been centered around? And for you, just in this one case, I've seen your writings for years. And Steve, I would say that your self-view isn't so much I'm a writer, even though that's your vocation, that's what you do. But frankly, through all the things you've written, there's a theme. You are a protector of truth, a distributor of truth, and a guardian against dysfunction. Like, that's what I see your true self-view is. Am I even close to it on that? Because we can go to the next step in a minute.
Yeah. So first off, I got to tell you that's one of the so I think that's an accurate description of me. But the one thing that actually has me smile even more than that is you're uncovering that I don't see myself as a writer. Yeah. I know I am a writer, but that is not my view. That is very perceptive.
Yeah, it is. And because you aren't finding your view through what you do. But how many people do you know? The vast majority, I would argue, is, hey, at a conference, I'm the chief revenue officer. Well, that's what I do as Aaron. That's not who I am. It's my vocation and it's what I do. But frankly, who I am is a person of relentless restoration. That's who I am. And I restore revenue and broken occupancy and levels of care and all revenue streams. That's what I do, but it's different. So you and I are similar in this.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely right.
Yeah. So the next step, I'd call it step 3. So we did, what's my view, my worldview, am I connected or separated? All right. Then the second is I'm telling the truth. I've got to tell the truth about how I view me. Is it from what I do, what I have, or what people say about me? Because if it is, it can be exhausting and you're in a measurement system, always trying to match, and it's yielding not enough. And so the third step is now determining in the context of a group, and the group can be one other person you trust that you can brainstorm with, that you can truly sit and determine, what is my gift? What is my gift to the world? Like, what is it that I do in this community, whether it's one person, whether it's 10 people, 3 to 7 is a good recommendation. Whether it's these 3 to 7 people, they can tell you and affirm to you. And I want to be clear, this is a type of journey, Steve. This may not be a 2-minute exercise. This may take some time. It may take days. It may take weeks. But what is my gift? What is it I really do? Can I use an example of my wife as a gift, and one that sometimes people get confused on?
Please.
So my wife is a nurse anesthetist. She's amazing. She's great. Maybe we can have her on the show. But for years, her belonging and exhaustion is once a nurse, always a nurse. And I'm not trying to start any debates with people, but it could be argued that it's not once a nurse, always a nurse. It's once a healer, always a healer. Once a person of restoration, always a person of restoration, because that's who they are from when they were a kid, putting Band-Aids on the knees of their friends, to now a nurse anesthetist. Now, we have a lot of people in our industry that are chief clinical officers, chief nursing officers, chief compliance, sometimes in the care area. They are still being a person of healing, a person of restoration, but they're holding on to the identity of a nurse, but they're not doing nursing anymore. But what they are doing is the same thing they did while they were a nurse. They're still repairing and fixing. What they're repairing is broken policies and procedures, broken state surveys that need to be repaired, or the results of state surveys. So they're still fixing even staffing patterns and brokenness. It's just expressed through a different way.
So I love this so much. I want to sort of bring it home for a minute. Is there another step, or is that it?
That is
okay. That's a lot. I mean, because I want to. Here's why I'm asking that, Aaron, is so we've titled this what separates a high performing executive director from everybody else. So as an executive, and we frequently see on LinkedIn posts where people are talking about, I'm an executive director and I'm exhausted and I'm burned out and I don't know that I want to do this. And every time we see one of those posts, there are dozens and dozens of people who come in and affirm that view. Yeah, that's my too, or I used to be an executive director and that's exactly how I felt. And so I think what I'm hearing from you is that if I reorient, if I go through these steps, maybe my view of being an executive director will be different.
Yes, the view. So let's take that. I'm exhausted, I'm spent, and it's very true. I am not arguing, I am validating. I too have felt exhausted and spent. So let's be clear. No one's bad for feeling exhausted or spent.
Right.
And no one's bad about that. But listen, the marketplace we live in, called senior housing, wants ROI. It wants return on investment. And return on investment's a good thing. It's made lots of goals, and people have met their goals and they've had advancements in careers. So it's a good thing. But the marketplace's mantra is always asking, what are you producing for me? And if your self-view is based in production, it's never enough. And frankly, if your view is based in production, it's not only never enough, it's dangerous. And the reason it's dangerous is because if my self-view is based in the view of someone else's view of me, of what I produce for them, and that's my self-view, call me Dr. Phil, but that seems out of alignment. Do you see why there's such a disconnect?
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge disconnect, but we do it all the time. The vast majority of people do it all the time. Leasing directors do it. I met my deposit goal. I met my move-in goal. I met it. Okay, I'm good. I'm worthy. And I have personal value because I met these goals and I can provide for my family. And I put off the fear that I'm going to be a loser and not be able to provide for my family. And so all the time it's based in that, majority of time. That's why it's so dangerous, because it can't be sustained.
Well, I was going to say, if you get to that point, you're only going to feel that for 10 days a month, and then you start the new month over, and the cycle returns again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and what a way to live. And so I want to be clear for all my corporate friends on the podcast that listen as well. Listen, goals and measurements, they're good things. No one's saying not to meet goals. I'm a goal guy. I like goals. Yep. Goals are good. We're in business. We need to meet these things. It's when your personal value is tied to that it can be dangerous. There's what I'm saying. And I just wanted to be sure there's immense clarity on that.
Okay. And so going through this 3-step process will help me to almost, if you say, I'm going to check this with you because I'm not sure I'm getting it right. It will help me to have a clear differentiation between who I am and my value as a human being and those external goals that are placed on me, whether it's by my boss or my social circle or potentially even my spouse, I guess.
That's right.
Is that true?
That's right. It will help. That is accurate. And even deeper, it will help you operate from a place of overflow, wholeness, and fullness because you're operating in what your gift to the world is, what you're designed for, your energy, versus out of fear, where you're always trying to self-promote and self-protect in order to obtain the approval of the other person's view of you, of what you produce.
Okay.
Does that provide much clarity to it? Because those are two different camps.
So it does. I wanted to sort of go just one level deeper.
Okay.
I do all this stuff, and my occupancy is still terrible. And my boss comes to me and says, "Hey, Steve, I love you, man, but your occupancy is terrible. How am I supposed to feel?
Yeah.
How do I manage that?"
Yeah. So I don't want to say how you should or shouldn't feel because I'm not about shooting on people. And
Yep.
so let me tell you a couple of options. All right.
Okay.
So, is that fair? So if your view is tied to that role, it's going to be devastating because your identity is almost going away. You're on action plan to be moved out, and your identity is moved out with it, and you feel lost. If you are in a place in a view that's aligned rightly with reality, that you view yourself rightly, and you're connected with other people, you can be disappointed, but know that I still have belonging and acceptance through the group of 3 to 7 people that I'm connected with. And while there's disappointment and there's grief I can process through, it's not going to shake who I am as a person, but it is going to be a disappointment that needs to be grieved and metabolized.
So what you're really saying is it's okay to feel bad, to even grieve it, but it doesn't have to impact how you see yourself, your self-value, your self-worth.
That's right. And let me tie on that real quick. And I know we're coming to time here. Is 2 things leaders don't do well is grieve well and celebrate well. And when we don't grieve well, there's a saying we say in a leadership program I'm in, is when you bring grief to a group, to your connected group, you metabolize it twice as fast. When you handle grieving on your own, it takes twice as long. And when you don't grieve, it's buried alive, and it will always come back later in a different form. And so grieving is not only am I saying it's okay, I'm saying it is encouraged. You do it. Grieve losses that occur in life with your loss inventory, because there's more than one.
Oh yeah, and we all experience them, right? I mean, nobody gets out without those feelings.
Yeah. Well, unless they don't have access to feelings, which is a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. So I'm actually thinking that in a few months, I want to do a part 2 with this.
Huh?
And here's what I want to very specifically talk about. You've given, I don't want to say we because I've taken credit that's really yours, but you've given this 3-step framework that I love so much. What I think we haven't done an adequate job of doing is actually teaching people how to put it into action. In particular, I think that it's really hard to find that group of people that you that you can go, what's my gift to the world, and have those conversations and come to when you got that pain and the grief. I think that I think maybe the most important thing. I've spent a lot of time over the last year or so off and on, and I'm going to dig into this a little deeper with you off air, but talking to people about their circle of friends And I am really, really surprised. Now, I'm not surprised actually. What is mostly confirmed is most people don't feel like they really have enough close friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a ton of work friends at conferences. I spent so much good time, but they're not probably, for the most part, people I'd call in the middle of the night if I was having a crisis. And
Right.
so that's really the circle I think you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I am. There's 7 levels of relationship that we can cover on part B. And in these top levels are your comrades that you can share your deepest, darkest secrets, and you can have acceptance and belonging. Where the friends you're talking about are great friends, great to hang out with, and they're casuals and they know a lot about you, but they don't know your deepest, darkest secrets, excuse me, as well. And so that's who you're talking about, that people feel they may not have connection with. So yeah, part B, we can talk about those seven levels of friendships. That may be the wrong word for it. The 7 C's of relationship is the formal from a Townsend Leadership Institute. We can talk about that, and even further, how to understand, find, and live in your true self-view about your gift to the world. I think that would be an amazing topic as a part B.
Great. Aaron, this has been a great conversation. I wish we could continue, but we're past time. Thank you for joining me. Jada, thank you so much for producing behind the scenes. I hope, again, you have a wonderful, wonderful Easter weekend, Passover weekend, time with family and friends to celebrate and live your best life. And with that, Aaron, any last words?
Just thank you for this, and I hope this resonates with people as much as it has me and you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.